I'm Fred Pickel, Executive Director of the Office of Public Accountability for the City of LA and Ratepayer Advocate for the City of LA. My charge is public independent analysis of things that impact water and power rates in the City of LA. And today I'm going to bring you up to date on the status of my office. Our official staffing level is a total of 6 individuals, 1 administrative person, and 5 professional staff. I hired my 2nd professional staffer after working my way through the city processes 2 weeks ago. Her name is Camden Collins. She is the Deputy Director of the office. She has a bachelor's in electrical engineering from Berkeley, a law degree from USF, and an executive MBA from Wharton. She has worked for the Department of Ratepayer Advocates at the Public Utilities Commission as an attorney. She was a legal and energy advisor to the President of the California Public Utilities Commission, and she was a board member of the California Independent System Operator, which was the system that coordinates power operations for most of the state, but not LADWP. And she has also worked in the city of South Lake Tahoe as in the role of economic development. And then my office is currently located in Figueroa Plaza, downhill from BWP. We've found that we're not getting many people coming in. We're trying to move back to the City Hall complex, City Hall East, City Hall South, City Hall itself, so that we're more accessible to people who are coming in for neighborhood council and other related matters, just so we can be reached more easily. And it looks like that's likely to be improved in the next month or so. It might be 3 to 6 months before we're able to move. And I think that might be helped by somebody else wanting my space down at Figueroa Plaza. So. And I haven't asked the question, gee, are they going to help pay for the move? And I believe the response is, well, gee, DWP can pay for it. And the Ratepayer Advocate, of course, says, well, shouldn't this really come from the general fund? The things I'd like to talk about related to DWP today are the expectation for future rate cases, the quarterly water adjustments, and an example of a case where I'm looking at what I think is a program that is improper from a ratepayer perspective. As far as rate cases and adjustments, we had 1 electric rate case go into effect last fall, and I agreed with that on the power side. On the water side, we had some additional discussions, and DWP chose to withdraw that rate case. So the base rates on water haven't changed, but there are quarterly adjustments for things like purchased water and certain investments related to water quality. And we're going to talk for a minute about the purchased water adjustment that was caused by drought conditions, and then talk about the net meter. And we expect DWP will be bringing forward base rate adjustments on power and water toward the end of this year. They're doing the preparatory work now. I've been involved in the review of some of the preparatory work, but those cases will probably be fully put together and go public in the 4th quarter of this year. The first thing is, this year the LA Aqueduct is flowing the least amount of water in its history. So that's impacting our rates. And this water flow is due to 2 things. 1, low snowpack, and snowpack that melted rapidly in the Eastern Sierra, and the water cost, the water impact of the mitigation efforts we've undertaken. 2, there's on the Western Sierra and MWD, they also are having a dry year. So that's affected us 2 ways, both the price of MWD water and the impact on us. This is the total cost in terms of dollars per HCF across the system, and that's reflecting purchased water. This is the net, what DWP gets to keep of that. You'll see that this number is going up and this number is pretty flat. So that's what DWP collects, and this remaining component is going to MWD. This has some substantial impact on the total rate. If you look at third quarter 2012 to third quarter 2013, the costs are going up, total water bill up 20%. If you look at from the recent surplus water, it was a banner year in the first quarter of 2011. It showed up in rates in 2012. That is first quarter 2012 to first quarter 2014. It's expected to be a 47% increase quarter to quarter. So it's a serious impact. We need to get the word out to the communities that if you have conservation investments for water that you've been thinking about, now's the time to make them, because you don't want to do it after you get that bill.
That 47% is from
First quarter 2012, first quarter 2014.
that's the rate all of us are paying. I mean, the water rate. Yeah.
Right. That's the overall rate. That's the system average water rate increase. So DWP has a press release out on this, but it needs to be heard in the communities. People need to make conservation investments, and ultimately the system costs get shared. But if you conserve faster than your neighbor, you'll be the one bearing less of the cost. Next, I'd like to talk about a component of the solar programs in LA. There are a number of solar programs in LA. There is the solar incentive program, net metering. That applies to residential customers. That's for largely residential solar users. There's a limited program for commercial and industrial customers. But the big component of the solar incentive program is for residential users. I'm not worried about that. That's not the issue I'm taking on this. There are two feed-in tariff programs. One involves a large site called the Beacon site in Kern County, combined with some investments in the local LA area. That's a program where the prices are bid. I'm not worried about that because the prices are bid. That's called the FIT 50 program. That's for 50 megawatts of local solar combined with 200 megawatts of solar out in Kern County. The program that I am worried about is the FIT 100 program. That is for 30 kilowatt to 3,000 kilowatt projects that for the entire output of the project is sold directly to DWP. Some of the PR in this is saying, oh, this is a customer program. This is not a customer program. It is vendors selling power to LADWP. And the first allocation is a 100 megawatt project. Just as a note, 30 kilowatts to 3,000 kilowatts. Those are projects that are 600 to 600 times the size of a typical residential installation. These are from a local perspective, pretty good sized projects. The first allocation at 17 cents a kilowatt hour was overbid by a factor of 5. This is a fixed price. They're not taking price bids. They're saying, get in line, first come, first serve, you get 17 cents. It's taking one step down on July 8th. And it'll be down to 16 cents. Now I'm going to explain why those numbers are way too big, above and beyond the fact that the old joke is we lose money on each one, but we make it up on volume. That's not my case. We don't need to do this. The average residential rate is 13.6 cents. This program has already started, but it needs to be reconsidered. The state program doesn't require pricing above renewable energy prices. We're getting carbon reductions, but this is twice as much as is needed to buy solar energy. I had a really clear example that's come in over the last couple of weeks. we could buy twice as much solar for the same amount of money. This is a subsidy from the average LA ratepayer to commercial and industrial and energy project development interests. The LA Business Council in particular is saying, gee, we're bringing people here. We brought somebody in from Toronto. My response is, Toronto is in the province of Ontario. Ontario just ceased its own Feed the Ontario program because of the cost. This program lacks competitive bidding for $550 million worth of power over 20 years. There are changed circumstances. Prices of renewables, even smaller projects, state PUC has passed a program that is below 9 cents, and we're now seeing other projects coming in below 7 cents a kilowatt hour, and this program is offering fixed prices at 16. There's also a cumulative impact. Ratepayers have seen a piling on of obligations over the past 6 months. We have the coal elimination program that adds about $700 million in expenses over the next decade. We have this short-term water increase that adds several $100 million to rates over the next year and a half. So it's a cumulative impact in terms of overall bills. I won't lead you through all the comparative prices, but I just say the city of Palo Alto, which has a municipal utility like DWP, only much smaller, they've just purchased 80 megawatts in 3 projects at 6.9 cents a kilowatt hour. And then to add salt to the wound, one of those projects they're buying from is in LA County. So when you hear, well, Pickel's numbers on these renewables, those are really projects out in the desert. Well, if Antelope Valley is desert, yeah, but it's still close in and it doesn't have big transmission costs. The customer and cost impact of this is, depending on what price you select, 230 to 320 million over a 20-year period. There's no incremental carbon benefit for doing this. We can buy this solar elsewhere and get the same carbon benefit. In fact, we spent the same amount of money, we could get twice as much solar and have twice as much carbon benefit. Or for another comparison, it's equivalent to the cost of shutting down the Intermountain Power Project a year earlier. If you like shutting down coal more than buying more solar. So this ends up in rate increases. We have a piling on of rate increases. This is a DWP projection issued in December of what the various new programs from conservation to rehabbing the local transmission and distribution systems through coal replacement, renewables. We're seeing a steady increase in costs. We don't need something else adding to those costs. So this should be reassessed. The DWP board chose to move ahead. I believe this program should be halted and reevaluated. This will come up again in December and be reviewed again in December. Unfortunately, we will spend another $60 to $80 million in the process. I think this is an example of a program where things have been lobbied too successfully in the city of LA for things that really don't benefit ratepayers. There was an exchange with the DWP board chairman at the end saying, I said, well, gee, this is really for economic development, not for the benefit of ratepayers. And it was yes, was the response. And I said, well, why doesn't this get paid for by the general fund? They're the ones responsible for economic development. And the response was, yeah, right. So, and a $250 million economic development expense is extraordinarily large. Any questions?
What should we do? What should we do?
Let the mayor and your city council people know.
Okay.
Yes. Your points are very good. What are the opposition points to this? That's
one, we have to show we're doing our share by having solar in town. My response to that is $250 million for PR. the last election, all spending in the last election, general and primaries, was 60 million. We don't need to see this, or we can go out to Antelope Valley to see it. Two, local is better. We don't have transmission costs. The PUC looked at this. There are programs in place for San Diego Gas and Electric, PG&E, and Edison. They only give offset for transmission and distribution after discussing it for 5 years. For some selective projects, depending on how they affect the local distribution network flow.
This sort of follow.
And third, economic development. This brings installers in basin to install projects that are more expensive in basin. I don't go for that one either.
Yeah, I just want to follow up with the question is getting to the point, what can we do? I think the land should consider some sort of resolution opposing it.
When he said about the FIT 100 and about how we're overpaying for it by almost 10 cents a kilowatt, I automatically was, after this presentation, I was going to ask him to send me the language of how this works so that then I can send out a resolution to be able to have that happen, because that is unconscionable. $68 million in 6 months, you said?
Yeah,
it's just wasted?
But we're doing that 5 times.
Okay, it's just times 5. Right. Want me to grab up the questions back there?
Tony?
Well, why couldn't we, since this is fairly straightforward and the Ratepayer Advocate is not saying something specific, he's saying we want this reevaluated, why can't we now move, I'd like to move that the Los Angeles Neighborhood Council Coalition supports the Ratepayer Advocate's request that the feed-in tariff 10 program be halted and reevaluated.
Second.
All right, do you have that down?
I will in a second.
Okay, let us get that, Tony. Why is it, Dr. Pickel, why don't you answer some more questions and we'll come right back. I understand it's on the floor, but I'm trying to get the language so that it's ready to go. So go ahead and answer some questions while we're doing that.
Obviously, within the DWP, we have people who specialize in water. We have people who specialize in power. Philosophically, do you think that it makes sense to have the burden of oversight combined into a single department? Or do you think we'd be best advised, leaner and meaner and more directly efficient and responsible if we had a Department of Water and if we had a Department of Power? And my second question is this: all forecasts with global change are that we are headed for a crisis with an inadequacy of potable water, and the DWP hasn't got off the dime as far as desalinization. Do you have an opinion as to how at risk, how liable our future is because we haven't done anything with desalinization?
Worldwide, there's a lot of experience with that technology, with the desalination technology, and it's expensive. And it's more expensive than the alternatives we see out there right now. That doesn't mean that won't change in the future. It is energy intensive. It does, the typical technologies these involve increased carbon emissions in the process. So there's a challenge there. Are there efficiencies with having water and power combined? I believe there are, because there's combined meter reading and billing, and there is a fair amount of common infrastructure in that process. So I think there are efficiencies of having that combined. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Robert Guevara from Eagle Eye. The question I have is about the commission. We had a dispute with them as far as their recommendation and their reaction to, I guess, reject it. But will the mayor be re-examining the composition of the commission to appoint people that are possibly more friendly to ratepayers?
It depends. The mayor has been supportive of the overall concept of these programs. So that may or may not change. Certainly, the composition of the board is open for question.
I think you have one here, and then any others, because then we're going to roll on to what the motion is, so that's why.
And to clarify, what I recommended was focus only on the smallest stuff, continue with the smallest stuff, and for the larger quantities, stop the larger quantity program.
Could you send me an email with that information in there?
That bullet.
Okay. And that's slide Because you sent me that stuff, I'm missing that
Yes,
slide.
right there.
Right,
The
okay.
resolution actually says the feeding tariff and program.
Feeding
100,
tariff,
I thought.
100.
Sorry, 100.
Okay, and we have one question here, Dr. Pickel.
I'm sorry.
We'll go with the motion.
Is that PowerPoint on your website?
Not yet.
Or you will put it up there?
We actually sent it out as part of the, because it was part of the package, and it will be on our website.
It's in the Power LA newsletter that went out yesterday, in the article on Dr. Pickel, and you can then also get on the Power LA website, has a picture of the aqueduct, and in there is this document,
And we'll have it on
and
our
Dr.
website
Pickel's
also.
bio, if you want to check up on him.
And
Oh,
if
you already put it there?
No, I have a link to it.
Oh, you have a link to it?
I can't.
Okay, because I also sent you the copy. But anyway, would you read the motion, please?
The motion from Tony is that Lang support the Ratepayer Advocate's request that the FIT 100 program be halted and support the subsequent reevaluation of the FIT 100 program as requested by Dr.
Okay.
I would
And we
use the
have a
word
second by
suspended
Jane
rather
Handel.
than halted.
Suspended?
Okay, we have a second by Jane Handel. Let's start with the abstains first. It's easier to count. You got one abstention. Okay, noes? All those in favor?
Anybody knows? Were there any no's?
Nine. 29. Yes, sir.
Because we don't want to particularize this or make this a matter of egos, it might be better if we said as advocated by the Ratepayer Advocate, rather than by Dr. Pickel. This isn't a Dr. Pickel motion, it's a Ratepayer Advocate.
Do we have
I
this
can
ratepayer?
take his name off.
We'll put ratepayer advocate.
It's in the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And the formal title is Office of Public Accountability / Ratepayer Advocate.
All right, and we'll get that out to the neighborhood councils with the blurb of actually what's in there and get it before all your boards. And we'll move forward with it, because that's $68 million and we can't get trees trimmed. Sidewalks trimmed.
I just want to personally commend Dr. Pickel for really
Yes.
doing something.
Thank you. I'm not popular in some quarters.
Now you